So the BT Young Scientist is a program that further innovates young scientists like these ladies. So girls, you were both category winners. And what was your project about and what title did it win? I'll start with you, Anna.
So my project for young scientists was I built a solar-powered device for education in developing countries and refugee camps. And I won the Trinity College Award for solving global challenges.
And yourself, Jennifer?
So my project was titled Helping Hemp Heal. So through my research, I found that there was a problem with the absorption of cannabidiol in our gastrointestinal tract. So to overcome the absorption barriers, I developed a nano formulation consisting of hemp oil and surfactants in order to make a nano formulation to enhance the absorption of CBD and to be able to enhance the lives of people around the world who like to use hemp and CBD as medicinal products.
And what even inspired you to think about subjects like this to do research on?
For me, I've always been interested in technology and going to like Coder Dojo and things like that. But I was following people like Malala and people like that and getting really inspired by people involved in humanitarianism. So I wanted to do something to help in the world. So I decided to combine it with something I knew stuff about, which was tech.
And what about you?
Well, I've always been very, very passionate about science, specifically biology and chemistry. And I'm a firm believer in the idea that we should all put ourselves in other people's shoes. So that's the way I like to look at, my projects. I like to identify a problem that's affecting lives around the world. So, but through my research, I like to come up with different solutions, viable solutions to help these people. So this year, there was a lot of media coverage around the use of CBD and hemp. So I was inspired when as a chemistry student, I identified the problem with the poor absorption. So I was determined to overcome that. So that's what inspired me to develop a nano formulation.
And something many people don't realize is that many of the young people involved in the BT Young Scientists, their research takes months and months. And so how long did it take for you to put the exhibition together at the BT Young Scientists?
For me, I was working on it for about a year, from kind of coming up with the idea and developing an early prototype and figuring out how it would work, to getting it to the final stages to bring it to the competition. It was about a year, so a while.
So I'm in Leaving Cert at the moment, so I decided to do my project last summer. So I spent almost every day of the lovely hot summer we had in the labs, and so I spent my summer almost every day working and developing the optimum formulation, and then all the consecutive months then leading up to the exhibition. So it was an absolutely fantastic experience.
And is it hard juggling being a teenager with this much research going on?
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm very determined and committed to my work, so I find a good, study balance with my science. So I found it was very enjoyable. So you'd be learning things in school, but I was also learning things about what I'll be doing in the future. I want to, be working in labs and doing research. So I thought, it didn't bother me, so I very enjoyed it. So.
For me, that's kind of the question I always get asked, and I never really know how to answer it because I guess I'm someone who always likes to be busy. So from my youngest day, I was always going, kind of doing things, and so it wasn't really much of a change. It's just kind of, you just need to have that focus to keep doing it and keep the work up and just try and find that balance. And it's kind of up to each person how that works for them. But yeah, it wasn't too difficult.
And now going back to the business boot camp, what was your overall experience at it like?
It was amazing. I had never really known that much about business before, and I had studied it for junior cert, but that was about it. And the skills that you got there is absolutely amazing, and the speakers that we were listening to were so inspiring. And even the skills that we learned there, I use every day to just apply to different things. And the friends that we made there, we still have a business bootcamp group chat on Snapchat going. So even the friends you make there are really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was an absolutely unforgettable experience. I suppose mine was very, biological and chemical based. So it was very, very beneficial to learn about the business side and entrepreneurial side of my project. So my long-term goal will be to develop a pharmaceutical product with my nano formulation. So the skills that I learned over the course of the 4 days at bootcamp are the skills I'll carry carry on into the rest of the career, and even things like, my communication skills, marketing skills, presentation skills, they're all things that I can apply then to, making the best product at the end of the day. And as Anna said, the friends you make as well, and even listening to speakers who, are at the next stage, ahead of you, a couple of years they've gone through their path. So it's really interesting and inspiring to listening to how they got to where they are and how they're doing. So, yeah.
So I was also at the BT Young Scientist, and I interviewed both the primary school section and the secondary school section. And one thing that struck me was that there was a lot more girls this year. Yeah. So I wanted to know, based on your experience in school, do you think enough is being done to, motivate girls to get involved in STEM?
Well, this year there was 60% female participation in the BT Young Scientist, which is fantastic to see the growth in the number. Exactly. So, so I definitely think it's very important to keep encouraging girls to take part in the exhibition and anything STEM related. There's a huge gap in the market, in terms of employment. There's not enough women in the STEM workforce, so I think it's very important to show them that there's, different career paths they can take, and that they should be rising above gender stereotypes, not feel that they're restricted to certain jobs or certain career paths. So I definitely think, like organizations such as the Young Scientists and even I Wish, that was founded by Gillian Keating, is a fantastic way to, catch girls when they're younger and to inspire them and say, you might actually have a passion for science, and get them to realize that at a young age. So even when they're choosing their leaving cert subjects, they have a big impact on what they're going to do in college. So I think it's really, really, beneficial to encourage them at a very young age to enter this.
I think, the Young Scientist is definitely a great place that encourages girls, and that's great to see. And even from my own experience, I found we get a lot of speakers in school about why you should be a girl in STEM and why you should go into it. And from a lot of my peers in school who aren't interested in STEM, I've heard them kind of say, I'm not interested in that, so I don't need to listen to that speaker. But I do think it's really important for everyone to listen to them, because it's not just the mindset of girls who are interested in science that we need to change. We need to change future CEOs, future politicians, future teachers, and that's kind of one really important thing that I think that everyone needs to listen to it. But even from my own experience again, when I was looking for work experience in TY, I was told by one technology company that they don't usually hire girls. And another one of my friends went to an engineering place to get work experience, and there was a lot of other boys her age there, and no one took her seriously over the boys. So while we've come a long way for girls in STEM, I think there's definitely still a big battle to be fought to get us on an equal playing field. So.
And do you think there's enough representation out there for young girls like yourself, or even younger?
One of the scientists I would look up to would be Kira Judge, and she's actually a former student in my school, so I always looked up to her, even though she's a couple of years ahead of me, and she inspired me to continue and express my passion for science, and through the Young Scientists, to be able to explore the different projects, and being able to show other people my passion and what I want to do in life, to help other people. But I definitely think, again, you keep encouraging girls, I think it's really good to see female role models and people looking up to them, and it's fantastic to inspire, especially young people as well, to consider such STEM as a career path, and, to, again, as saying, not restrict yourself to certain career paths, look up to these people, because, you never know, they be all world leaders, so.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some great people to look up to out there, but there's definitely, for young girls, again, not as many as there would be for boys. It's the kind of age-old thing of, even, say, totally different to STEM, but Marvel movies, there's a lot of girl superheroes starting to come into them now, which means that young girls can look up to them, whereas before it was just all boys. So, it's kind of across fields, and it's starting to creep into STEM now as well, where there's a lot of girls that people can look up to, and you just kind of need to search out and find them, and look under little hiding places, and you'll find them eventually. And I think you just need to keep at it. And
And going back to what you said about looking for experience when in TY and that person saying that they don't usually hire girls, I would have friends in college, which you're still in even cert, but you will be going on to college. I would have friends who were doing STEM subjects in college, and they would be maybe one of the 3 girls in a class of 150.
Yeah.
And they would often talk about the pressures they feel being, the only one of 3 girls. Do you ever feel that pressure when you're in STEM spaces?
I guess you kind of feel like you need to carry it a little bit, and you kind of need to represent for them, because you look at, and I think she went to you as well, when we were at Young Scientists, there was this really, really little girl, and she couldn't have been even 7, you know who I'm talking about. She was so enthusiastic, and she was running around to all of the projects, and she knew so much, like, you have your kind of child explanation ready, where if a kid comes over, you give them the easy version, but she was looking for the version that you give the judges, and she was able to keep up with it completely, and so she was amazing. So I think you kind of feel like you need to do it for them, and that is a little bit of pressure, but it's kind of also a little bit exciting, because if you know that you can prove people wrong, like my friend that I was talking about who did the engineering, she was telling me a story about one of the boys in the engineering place with her that weren't taking her seriously. His phone case broke, and he couldn't fix it, and the other boy couldn't fix it, and they were spending the day trying to fix it. And she was saying, let me look at it, and they wouldn't. Eventually they did, and within 20 seconds she had the phone case fixed and slid across the table to them, and they were totally surprised. So I think kind of seeing that look on people's faces is a great motivator as well. So.
Yeah, I think I'm lucky in the STEM world that I suppose I'm in that, in school there's always more girls in the science classes, which is great to see. But it's very important to convey the message that we shouldn't, be restricted due to our gender. Do you know what I mean? As in, we shouldn't feel intimidated by our male counterparts. We're all equal at the end of the day, and I think that's something we shouldn't let ourselves, stop ourselves moving forward. So I definitely think, in school, in my school anyway, there's a good, environment surrounding STEM, and especially women in STEM, and even there's a lot of advocates in school. Like, I'd be a big advocate for, I suppose, promoting women in science. And even a couple of weeks ago, in Clonakilty, Networks Ireland were holding an event to promote women in STEM. So it was very inspiring to, listen to other people's stories, and it was great to see, people, they were happy to hear that there's other role models, and, same names keep coming up, like Kira Judge is she's inspiring everyone, and I suppose it's great to see that people are now looking up to women as well, and I think it's very important to keep encouraging that. And even I went to one of my old primary school after the Young Scientists, and I just stood back in awe when I saw the hands flying up asking questions. I suppose when you think you're going into a primary school, you might just have to, I suppose, not, to lack of a better word, dumb down the project a bit just so that they could relate to it and understand it. But they were asking such advanced questions, and it was fantastic to see that at such an early age, that the enthusiasm to get into the STEM world, which I think is going very well so far.
Super. And you mentioned a few inspiring young women there, and I suppose I'm curious, who are your role models?
For me, I can't quite pick someone out of STEM in terms of a girl in STEM, but one woman that I'd really look up to would be Michelle Obama for various different reasons. She's just amazing, and I think she's totally changing the game for girls, and she's just doing a great job at it, so she's definitely someone that I'd really look up to.
Who I would look up to, as I mentioned earlier, would be Kira Judge. She's a fantastic advocate for women in STEM and inspiring me to, express my passion in STEM. But also, I look up to Gillian Keating, who's the founder of I Wish. Her background is in law, and I think it's very interesting how, you can have the best of both worlds. She's out promoting women in STEM as well, setting up and, trying to inspire young people to go into STEM, even though she herself isn't in the STEM career path. So they're two people I would really look up to, because they're the people who will help, inspire the next generation to help advance, the scientific and technological movement and be the next leaders,
Yeah.
And speaking of generation, we're all of Generation Z. And yesterday, the BT Young Scientists released a survey that said that people of Generation Z, they want to see the use of science and technology. They want to see science and technology tackle climate and social issues. Is this something you'd be interested in the future? And what do you make of that survey, I suppose?
Well, for me, that's hugely important, and it's exactly what I'd like to do. Even my Young Scientist project was trying to use solar power to solve the education crisis in developing countries and in refugee camps. So that is one area I feel really passionate about, because I think that modern problems need modern solutions, and we've been trying for so long to fix the problems that are going on in the world, and we've not really been getting anywhere. So we have all of these things at our fingertips that we can use to solve them, and I think it's a vital part of it is using technology, and especially because we have people growing up now that are really understanding of those issues. Like, you see with all the youth striking for climate change, our generation is so understanding of it, and our generation is also the people that are starting to really get an interest in technology and finding new ways to use it to fix those problems. So I think it's hugely important and something I'm just personally really passionate about.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is, it's a huge issue surrounding climate change, and I think we've come so far, the whole industry of science and especially technology. We have all, as you said, everything at our fingertips. It's just trying to, I suppose, improve the awareness around the climate change problem. And I think if we keep trying to inspire young people to have a look at these problems and say, how can I make a difference? And I think that's the best way, I suppose, to get the next generation to help fix these problems.
And even at Young Scientists, you see a huge number of projects tackling those issues, and I think that's one thing that really gives you a bit of hope for the future, is when you go to an event like that and you take a stroll around and you can count so many projects that are looking at these issues and taking steps to solve them, and I think that's a really good sign for the future.
Even at such a young age as well, to see the determination, the commitment and the enthusiasm to tackle real world problems at such a young age.
There's a lot of people our age doing a lot more than a lot of people older than us, so that's kind of exciting, because it means we can be part of the change, and that's a nice thing to see.
And so imagine there's a young person out there somewhere who has a topic that they want to do research on or do scientific, explanations on. What advice would you give them? Because I know sometimes we have fears that hold us back, especially when you're young. What advice would you give that young person, regardless of whether they're a girl or a boy?
Well, I would say keep with your dream, keep with your passion, no matter what. Keep working towards it, stay committed to it. And I suppose, if there's someone in STEM, I would say, it's not about, finding all the answers to things. It's about asking the right questions at the very beginning. And I think, no matter what, no mind anybody else, do what you are happy doing and keep working at that, and you'll make the biggest difference for everybody else. So I definitely think keep working, stay committed to whatever your passion is, no matter what.
Yeah, for me, I'd say go for it and believe in yourself. If you have an idea that you're passionate about, that's kind of all that matters. And if you believe in yourself, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, because there's always going to be haters. And even from when I was starting off my project, there was people telling me it's not a good idea, it's not going to work. And now I have a fully working prototype, and I have something that I'm really passionate about and really proud of, and that I hope can actually help change lives with it for education uses. And I think that's all that matters. You just need to have faith in yourself and just do it, and don't ever think you can't, because you can.
That's really good advice. Thank you very much. I suppose they're very impressive answers, and what you're doing is super impressive. I mean, I can't, when I was a student, I don't think I was doing that much with my time personally. So I think that was amazing.
Thank you.
Done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.